What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
How are you doing this week, James?
Better than you by the looks of things.
Does it really show that bad?
It does.
It is amazing, though, isn't it, how that music hits and I wake up just a little bit.
Just like well, you were
Just a little bit.
in danger of falling asleep on the mic stand.
Just slightly. Just slightly. It's been a pretty hectic day. I mean, yeah, we talked about it a little bit before turning the mic on, which is probably a good thing because the recording would be ruined if I had to talk about that on it. But, yeah. How has your work week been, James?
It hasn't been too bad.
Yeah. Good. Back to sort of normalish.
Yeah, I get suspicious when it gets us. No, things are running too well.
Yeah. Work should never be smooth, really, should it?
It's just sort of like...
means something's going wrong. Or something
is about, you know, we hit the eye of the storm and we're waiting to come out the other side. It's like,
Indeed. I think we're the ones that are coming out the other side at the moment. Obviously, for those keeping track, I'd say every single year about this time, it's my busiest time of the year.
Yes.
Because it's Wimbledon tennis tournament season, which I have to cover.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not go into that.
Rather you than me.
Yeah. Rather anyone else but me, if I'm honest. But yeah, we were the next couple of weeks recording. I'm going to be probably drained, incredibly tired, probably mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. I might be just some slop of a man leaning on the table with a microphone on his face.
Yes.
So. I mean, the worst part of it, James, is this time of year is hard because gaming suffers, and I don't like that.
Yes.
And gaming has already been suffering for the past couple of weeks as we haven't been gaming all that much. But we did manage to get some games in last night, didn't we, James?
We did.
We had a wee bit of a game night.
We did.
Where we played, well, all of us, we played 2 games.
Yes.
And then you... anti-socialite went home and we continued to play other games. Granted, we only played like one more game, but you know, neither here nor there. We played one more game than you did, James.
You did.
Do you remember the games we played?
I can't remember the name of the first one.
Okay.
But I know we played First Rat.
We did indeed. It was your first experience of First Rat, wasn't it?
It was, and I won.
I don't know how.
No, neither do I. I was, when you flicked that score pad over, I think my reaction was, what? How?
Consider it, you actually won by, I mean, I will say a fair margin. I think you won by about 10, 15 points or something like that.
Yeah, about that. I think the net, I had, if my memory is serving me, I had about 81.
Something like that, yeah.
So, no, it would have been about 6 points because I think you had 75 and you were in the second place.
I wasn't in second. I was in third.
Were you in third?
I was in third place, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was more like 6 points. I think it was about 6 points between me and the second player. I do not understand how.
Was that more a case of you didn't have an overall plan in the game? Because obviously...
Well, it was my first playthrough, so yeah, I had no... It's more... From what I could gather from the score pad, you all seem to... It's one of those games where there are multiple score trackers to keep...
Of course, yes.
To keep track of, and you guys all seem to be zeroing in on, like, a couple of them and going for the high pointed things. It's another one of those where it's like, if you're first in the track, you get the most points. If you're second, it's slightly, et cetera, et cetera. Where I was kind of spread out all over, I think I was on all of them.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think there was any tracks that didn't have at least one of your
cubes on it. And I think that's why I was a bit surprised, because I think I basically lost track of my points total and where I actually was sitting, which was in the lead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very interesting game, really, because I've played it a lot recently since I finally got hold of a copy at Expo. And one of the games I played recently was with my partner. It was her first game. She seemed to sort of enjoy it, but there was probably a bit too much going on, I think, for her to really comprehend. However, she still completely trounced me in that game, much the same as she did another game that I've been playing with and introducing her to, which was Rome in a Day. And she made a point of ensuring that I talk about it on the podcast because I'd said that she wouldn't play me and that she did twice and beat me twice. So I've talked about it. And we're moving on.
It is. We'll edit that bit out. It's fine.
No, I've got to leave it in because then I've done my due diligence.
Yeah,
I've said what I was asked to say.
Yeah, but then it's forever preserved on the internet. And
what we may do is we might delete that record of play on board game stats. Possibly. Not sure. I'm not quite that sad, if I'm honest. But yeah, congratulations. She completely trounced me at all of them.
Every time now that you guys have an argument, that little soundbite of "and she trounced me" is going to just appear.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's very proud of it. The fact that she did indeed beat me, and especially at a game that I'd had plenty of experience at, and she'd had no experience. In fact, 2 games that she had no experience of, and she decimated me on all of them. But yeah, going back to First Rat, James, your first experience of it, what were your first impressions of the game?
I mean, it's another one of those games where it's very hard to keep track of everything that's going on because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah? Good. Would you play it again?
Yes.
Good, because you're going to be playing it again. Because it is a game that I would like to talk about because I actually really like the game. Spoiler. But, yeah, First Rat, pretty good game. It's quite an old game now. It's like two, possibly 3 years old. So it's not old, but it's old compared to some of the stuff that we play. But, yeah, First Rat was a game that I've played quite a few times. You played for the first time last night. We did also play Space Base last night.
That was the one.
Now, we won't talk too much about it, James, because we are going to be talking about it in about 5 minutes' time. So... yeah, in case you didn't know, we're going to be talking about that today.
That's what this week's episode is.
But yeah.
That's a new record for you, Jason. We're 8 minutes into the recording, and you've just told me what the topic of the...
There you go. Breaking it to you live on the airwaves, James. Aren't I such a good organiser?
You are.
But yeah, Space Base, quick rundown, James. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, we've played it before, so yeah.
Yeah, good. We'll talk about it more in a minute.
Yes.
I have been playing a few other things. I've been hitting up Board Game Arena. I have been playing Ark Nova, which I know that you have played in the past, James. I know you haven't played the digital implementation on Board Game Arena.
No.
But is it something you'd be interested in trying? Because I will say, one of the things I like about it is not having to do any math or any kind of housekeeping. It does it all for me, and it takes a 3-hour game down to about an hour. And it's lovely. You should try it, honestly. I think it'd be really good. Well, maybe we'll arrange to get online and play it together at some point.
Maybe.
Sticking with the PC theme, I've played one more game that I'll talk about, and that is the proper game digital implementation of Root on Steam. And yeah, I got trounced by the AI. So what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, James, about my losing streak.
Even the computer's getting in on it.
Even the computers are getting in. But I will say, again, I know it's something you haven't seen, you haven't tried, but the actual official Root game on Steam, it's really, really good.
I have seen it.
I've seen
it while you played it because it's got the intro screen of the little animals in the forest playing their little instruments, which I was like, oh, that's cool. Sold.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I like the animations of it. It kind of brings the game to life a little bit because it is literally like playing the board game on computer. So bringing those sort of nice little animations into it just reminds you that, yes, this is a PC game. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, even when the computer beats me. I will say I had it on a very, very tough difficulty as well. That's probably why. Yes. Wasn't on easy.
Yes, it was.
It probably was. I genuinely can't remember. But yes, that's some of the games we've played this week. But James, do you know what we played this time last year?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. Savannah Park.
Savannah Park.
Can you believe it's been a year since we talked about Savannah Park? Doesn't feel like that long.
No, it doesn't.
How do you feel about Savannah Park a year on?
Yeah. I enjoy it.
That's some in-depth stuff right there, Dan.
I know. It's I wouldn't say Savannah Park has been like up there on my list of games, but I do still enjoy it. We obviously we played it at Expo.
We did indeed, yeah.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable game.
I mean, I think for me, the fact that I took it to Expo is, I think that's saying something.
Yeah.
To be honest, because before we went, I was sitting there like, what do I want to take? What do I want to take? And then it was one of those that I just went, do you know what? Of all the games that I've got, that's definitely one I want to take.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I do enjoy the game, and it is I would actually say you made a good call on that, because it strikes me as being a very Expo type game, because it's quite stick it to you without really being stick it to you.
Yeah.
The collective groans when you announce a piece that's moving and everyone goes, I wasn't ready for that one yet.
It's usually me.
Yeah.
Even when I've picked the piece, I've done it in the past. So I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, I've already said it now, so now I've got to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree, actually. It is a very Expo game because it's easy enough to teach someone who's not played it. And one of the things I found from the mistake of trying to teach Arc Nova at Expo the previous year was it's quite a loud environment. So trying to teach is hard enough as it is without then having to try and teach lots and lots of complicated rules or complex rules or whatever it be. You know, and going back to First Rat, that's kind of another game that I'm not sure I'd really want to teach at something like an Expo.
Yeah,
because while the game's not complicated,
there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, a lot of tracks to try and explain. And again, if I'm explaining that in a loud environment, I'm having to raise my voice, which my throat is going to be shot by the end of teaching that game. And I think Savannah Park, again, much like Die of the Dead, which I also took, was simple enough to teach at something like that. And we had a great time playing it.
Indeed, we did.
And there's not much in the box, so it's quite light.
Yes.
And yeah, my back was grateful. Well, I mean, it wasn't grateful of all the other games that were in the bag that was on my back, but it did lighten the load just a little bit.
Yes.
So yeah, a year on from playing Savannah Park, we have played it a few times. Is it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Oh, it's still a thumbs up.
Good, because it is a thumbs up from me as well. But yes, that's Savannah Park, the game we played or talked about last year. Shall we move on to the main event, James?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to blast through this game highlight because, yeah, I need to sleep. So let's do it. James, you nearly went to sleep then, didn't you? And it was just time to wake you up just a little bit. So, yes, we are talking about Space Base. What is Space Base? Well, Space Base is a dice-rolling tableau building game that was originally released by AEG in 2018. It has an estimated playtime of about 60 minutes and can accommodate 2 to 5 players aged 14 and up. And at the time of the recording, I had a quick look earlier, you can pick this up for as little as £35, but it's usually in the £40 to £45 bracket. In Space Base, players will be rolling dice and using the rolled numbers to activate cards on their tableau by either using the dice sides individually or combining the values to activate the higher numbered cards. Overall, the ultimate aim of the game is to be the first player to get to 40 points. That's it. It's a very, very simple, I guess, aim of the game. So that's how you play it. But what comes in the box when you buy Space Base?
Okay, Jason, in the box, you get 5 sets of starting ship cards, 132 ship cards, which are split into levels 1, 2, and 3, 12 colony cards, 5 player boards, a bunch of coloured cubes. I won't list them all individually.
Oh, why not, Jay?
Because they're coloured cubes. 2 dice, a starting player card, and a field manual, which I am currently reading from.
Yes, you are. Not a picture on my phone at all.
No, because this is actually Paul's game and you weren't smart enough to say, can we borrow the rulebook?
This is very, very true. I'm sorry. I have failed you all. So, James.
Organisation there, Jason.
Yes, the organisation is totally with us at the moment. So yeah, that's the stuff that comes in the box. It sounds like there's a fair bit there, James. But ultimately, its core is cards.
Yes.
But we're not talking standard size cards, are they? They're more like the Bandido size cards, aren't they?
Yes.
Which normally does annoy me a little bit because, again, I'd want to sleeve the game if I owned it. But actually, if they were all standard size cards, those boards, the player boards that you have to put your 12 cards on, would be huge.
They would.
So can I accept it in this instance? I probably can, if I'm honest. But James, what do you feel about the components that come in the game?
I think the components are pretty good. You know, the boards seem fairly decently made. The cards are all very nice.
Yep.
I quite like the artwork of this game.
Yes. I was trying to think earlier how to actually describe the artwork, because again, it is cartoonish.
Yeah.
But it's not childish cartoonish, but it's not adult cartoonish. It's really, really hard, but I love it. I think it's kind of like First Rat. It's just got something.
Yeah.
But I can't put my finger on it. And Space Base is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's just got that.
So I love the artwork. I mean, coloured cubes are coloured cubes.
Yes. They are translucent ones, though, aren't they? They're not opaque ones, which I quite liked. You know, I know they could have been opaque cubes, but I don't know why. I've just kind of got something against opaque cubes.
I don't necessarily have a thing against opaque cubes, but I think the translucent ones feel a bit more spacey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I suppose it is a space game, isn't it? But, yeah.
I couldn't tell you why, but I just feel they're a bit more spacey.
I'm guessing it's because whenever you see like something like a sci-fi movie or something, there's always there's glowing stuff, isn't there?
Yeah.
In space, and translucent, I guess, is the closest you can get to a glowing cube without filling it with LEDs and batteries and making every cube the same size as as my fist, which would not work in this game.
Oh, right. Okay, so here's the thing, Jason. You've just hit upon a brilliant thing here. You get giant chess sets, right? I want to see giant board games.
Yeah. Well, we did. We did see them at Expo. The life-size, I think it was Catan this year, I think it was. Yeah. I wouldn't want that in my collection, though.
Can you imagine a gigantic tableau, like trying to, three of you to carry a card onto the board?
That'd be classic.
Right, put this one in slot number 7.
Yep, we hire out Trafalgar Square in London to play a 2-player game. Hyde Park if you want to play a 4-player game. But yeah, it is pretty cool. Going back to the boards that you were saying about, the individual player boards, they fold in 3, don't they? They're quite small boards, but they fold into 3 rather than 2. I'm not going to lie, I know that Paul's game has been used a fair bit.
Yeah.
And they still look absolutely fine, but it does worry me that, especially with a 3 folding board, that they're going to eventually give in.
One criticism that I would have with those boards, actually, because I know both of us did it when we were packing away, is they're too easy to fold the wrong way, and they don't actually resist
they don't.
Folding the wrong way.
But they just, once it's happened, it then just lifts up one of the bits a little bit. But it stretches.
I was going to say, if you do it too often, it's going to rip the artwork, because obviously it's not meant to bend that way. But like most boards, when you attempt to fold them incorrectly, they'll almost go, no, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And they definitely did not do that, because I sort of did it, and then I looked at it and went, have I done that right? I don't think I have.
Well, it's the only reason I knew that I'd done mine wrong is because I heard you say, Paul, is this the way it's meant to go? And I looked down and went, oh, I've done it the same way.
Yeah, and obviously it wasn't. And then once you've done it the right way, it sat nice and flush. It was all good. So it does show that it's got some resilience there. But I do think over time that's going to become weak, especially if you are folding them the wrong way, or maybe you're not noticing that someone has folded it the wrong way, and then you're putting it in the box and forcing it closed.
Yep.
If you then don't use that game for about a month, it's got a month of sitting in there basically stretching the paper that's holding it together. So I would be a bit concerned about that. But other than that, like I said, the boards are functional, the cards in the game are functional, the cubes are functional. There's nothing really, to me, that stands out.
No.
And that's not a bad thing, really, in a game that I think is reasonably priced. I'm just going to get it out there pretty quickly. I think at the costs I've seen of it, I don't know about that 40 plus mark.
I was going to bring that up later when we initially got to what do you think of the price. But as you've gone there, I might as well go there too. Yeah, I think £40 to £45 is bordering on extortionate for what you actually get.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the real question for me is why? Why is it so expensive?
No,
because there's nothing in it.
Obviously, I didn't know how much this game's RRP was before you said that.
Yeah. Now, this is the thing. The game originally was what, 2018, I think I said it was?
Yeah.
So it's quite old now. So those prices might reflect the fact that maybe it's not going to say that it's got vintage, but normally games of that age have come out of production. As far as I'm aware, it is either still in production or has recently gone back into production. But even still, it's a small box game. It's not.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it out there straight away. I would not pay £40 to £45 for this game, and I like this game.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe gameplay will redeem it a little bit. We will undoubtedly talk about that in a minute. But before we do, I had one other con that I have with regards to the components, and that is on the cards themselves. To put it in context, in the game, you're buying cards, much like a deck builder, I guess, but it's a tableau builder. So you buy cards to exchange out with the card you've got on your tableau. And what I found on some of the cards that you're buying, where they start introducing more powerful actions on them, some of the iconography on them is not particularly intuitive.
Yeah, I was thinking that as a lot of the ones that I purposely stayed away from in the game last night, because I was looking at them going, I don't know what that does.
No. And this was the problem that I faced, really, when I first started playing it, and even now to a degree, because I've been tasked with teaching this game a few times, and almost every single time, in multiple rounds, shall we say, the game comes to a pause because I've now, someone has asked, oh, what does this card do? So I've now got to consult the rule book because I can't remember all these different cards because there's hundreds.
Yeah.
And I've got to check them. It's like, oh, okay, all right, it does this. And then a few rounds later, when we've all been thinking over our game plan and stuff, it's like, oh, I can't remember what that card does.
Yeah.
What does this card do? And I'm like, now I've got to check again. And it's just sort of like, it's a bit of a faff. And it's mainly because it's cards that are using iconography instead of text.
Yeah.
While I agree that if they put text on it, it wouldn't have worked. The text would have been way too small.
Yeah.
So
some of them do have text on them. That's the problem.
Yeah. So some of them have text, some of them have iconography.
Because that's something I was about to bring up. Is like some of them do have text on, and the text is quite small.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So it's a real interesting one here because I like it, and for the most part, I know I can see what it does, having played the game enough. But when you're teaching the game, that iconography is a bit of a bugbear.
Yeah. And
usually if I'm playing this game, it's because I'm teaching new people. So that was a bit of a downer for me. And there's some other iconography that I want to talk about in a bit, but it's more on the gameplay as opposed to the iconography being a bit meh. But yeah, that's my, I guess if I'm going to say anything, my major con from the game and the components is the iconography is just not up to standard, shall we say. But that being said, James, gameplay. How do you feel about the gameplay? Do you like it overall? Pros and cons?
Yeah, overall, I really enjoy this game.
Yes.
It is a fun game. This would have been where I would have basically brought up the section that you've just spoken about, where it's like, my only downside to the gameplay side is confusing iconography.
Yeah. It is weird, to be honest, because there are some on there. I mean, this is very hard because, full disclosure, we don't have a copy of the game here, so we can't look at stuff and actually describe them.
From memory, it's like some of them have got, like, they're trying to explain to you what the card does, and the iconography is just confusing. You've got arrows pointing to other things on the tableau. Yeah. Some of them have spaces for cubes to go on or multiple cubes to go on. And like you said, because they're those really small cards, so they get very cluttered very quickly.
Yeah.
And some of them, on top of that, also have a text element. Like I said, the text is tiny.
Yeah.
There's a few of them are really obvious as to what they do. And then there are some that are just so cluttered that you're just like, what is going on that card?
Yeah, because obviously the makeup of the card is half of the card is dedicated to the ship artwork. Because you're buying new ships, aren't you? That's the premise. So half of the card is dedicated to the artwork, and that never goes away. So anything you need to convey on that card has to be in the bottom half.
And there's a catch to that.
There is.
Because the stuff that is at the bottom comes in two sections. The section for when it is on the main section of your tableau, and the section for when you flip it upside down and tuck it behind the tableau.
Yes, indeed.
Why? I mean, I do get why they didn't do this, but at some point it's almost like they needed to be double-sided for that flip.
Yeah.
But they're also in Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3 ships, and the back of the card is required to denote what
stage they're in. Yeah. For the setup and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that could have just been a medallion at the top of the card with a 1, 2, or 3 in it, rather than the whole back of the card. The back of the card needed to be there for when you flip it.
Yeah. I do agree with that. I mean, I guess another reason not to have done that would be when you've got the reserve pile, because you have, I think it's a selection of 5, 6, 7, I can't remember how many it is, that are face up that you can see to purchase.
Yeah, then you...
Whereas if they're going to be sitting there, you're going to see what's coming out next. You might not buy one because you want that one instead or whatever. I don't know. There's probably good reasons not to do it, but I do agree with you. Something kind of needed to be done to sort of declutter the cards a little bit, especially the ones that required extra stuff. Okay, we'll jump into it because it's one of the things this is a personal thing I don't like. But it works nicely with what we were talking about there. And those were the cards where you have to, air quotes, charge them to be able to use them. So how the game works, I did touch on it for a bit at the start. On your turn, you roll 2 dice. You get to activate things on your tableau based on the faces of the die that you roll. So if you rolled a 3 and a 5...
Yeah, you've got slots on your board labelled 1 to 12.
Yep. And they all do different things.
Yep. They've all got a ship in them. Yep. You get a starting deck.
Yep.
Which will fill all 12 slots up. And you can, like Jason says, you roll 2 dice and you can choose to activate the dice individually. Let's say you rolled a 2 and a 5.
Yep.
You can either activate slots 2 and 5.
Yep.
Or slot 7.
Yes.
By adding them together.
Yeah. And usually the stuff that's higher on the track, so your 10s, 11s, 12s, they are very, very powerful.
In your starting deck.
Yes. Yep. To a degree. Yep. Which is understandable because you're not going to roll them as often, right?
Yep.
Whereas something in 5, 6, and 7 are going to be arguably the most common because the makeup of numbers, you're likely going to be able to do it.
Yep.
1, 2, and 3, again, are fairly common, but not quite as common as 5, 6, and 7.
Well, it's one of those choices, isn't it? It's like 5, 6, and 7 is going to be common as add the dice together.
Yeah.
But I would say something like a 2. 2 comes out quite a lot as an individual dice. This is an aspect of the game that I actually do quite like. It's quite tactical as to go, right, am I using 2 dice individually or adding them together? Yeah. Which one benefits me more?
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's where the buying of your ships comes in because you can buy better ships to replace your original starting.
Well, think about like the card that I had in slot 2 on my tableau that was like, yes, it required charging twice.
Yeah.
It gave me, 20 gold?
Yeah. Yeah, which is horrendously good.
And it was in slot 2.
Yeah. I mean, you only had to charge it twice because of the amount of players we were playing with.
Yes. Ironically, that's a bit of iconography that's really obvious.
Yeah, yeah, because it had 4 slots on it. 2 of them were just blank, and then I think there was a 2 and a 5 or something
no, it was
like
a 2 and a 3.
2 and a 3,
so it's
or
like basically,
something like that, yeah.
If you're playing a 2-player game, you need all of them. If you're playing a 3-player game, you need 3 of them.
Yeah.
And if you're playing a 4 or 5-player game, you only need 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so iconography on that works. It was still a bit cluttered, because it had to have enough room for 4 cubes to be put on it. But the charging ones, they're the ones that I just don't like them. Because it's a totally personal thing, because I don't like spending basically an action to charge it in the hope that I'm then going to roll it again at some point.
Well, the
one in number 2 is a bit easier because number 2 is a fairly common number. But say, for example, I put something in number 6 or 8. In fact, we'll say 8. If I put a charging one in 8, I could charge it and go, oh, yeah, next round I'm going to get 10 victory points, which is really good. That's a quarter of the way. But I could go the rest of the game with not rolling an 8.
Yeah.
And it's then wasted. You know, I've wasted an action, whereas I could have used whatever the numbers are together.
See, there are cards, and it's one of the ones that I kept eyeing up. I didn't need to use it, but there are cards that allow you to swap on your tableau. So you could end up with a card like that, say, like you said, in slot 8, which is a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
And it will, the card, when you buy the ship and you roll that number, it will say, swap this card with position 3.
Yeah, something along those lines, yeah.
Which is really good. But it's funny because I have a problem with the charging cards for the reason we mentioned earlier, which is intuitive, and I brought it up in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to charge this card twice.
Yep.
I've now put my second cube on it.
Can I do it straight away?
Is it active, or do I have to roll it and get a third time to actually activate it, or is it active the second I put the cube on it?
Yeah. Again, there's nothing...
It's not intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't tell you, per se. And then, again, arguably, there's nothing on it that says, once activated, you remove the cubes. Which, I mean, I guess common sense would say, oh, well, I've only got to charge it twice and it gives me 20 gold. Of course it's not going to be always charged now, right? But, you know, it's not a difficult game.
Yeah.
It's not Gateway by any means, but it's closer to the Gateway Plus level, from, you know, in my opinion. I think it needs a little bit more intuitiveness.
Yes.
On display. Again, we're also the ones sitting here saying, stop cluttering the damn card. So I don't know the answers as to how you deal with this, but just something there that cuts down the asking of questions that require checking the rule book or
yeah,
you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's sort of, all right, taking the energy off the cards, I would argue that all right, that is a rulebook reference, because, you know, whoever's teaching the game should have read the rulebook and know something like that. But a quick fire one is to, well, is the card active when the last cube goes on, or do you have to do another round and roll that number again? Yeah. That kind of thing. You know, other games do it with a lightning bolt, don't they? If it's instant action, it's a lightning bolt. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Again, it's a little bit of iconography, cross iconography. Yeah. Other games use it. That's a good way of doing it. Now, obviously, we're talking about cards that you're buying and cards, you know, activations that you can do on these cards. But I'd like to transition on from that just a little bit, because these are all things that you do on your turn. However, James, one thing I really like about this game is the downtime. Yes. Because the downtime is what? In the first round, 20 to 30 seconds. Yeah, in the first round, maybe the second round, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's about a minute. Yeah. After that, it's usually not that much at all. No, because it gives you stuff to do in your opponent's turn, possibly. It does, yeah, because if you're buying cards to upgrade your tableau, you don't lose the card that's on it. No, do you? You just remove it, you replace it, and then it flips upside down, goes behind your board, so that only the little red bit is showing. And what that basically is my turn is over. It's now James's turn. James has rolled his die. He's rolled a 7. Oh, I've got an upside down card on number 7. That means I can activate the red and the same rules apply. I've rolled a 7, but I've rolled a 2 and a 5. Does Jason have red sections showing on 2 and 5? He does. He also can choose whether he wants to add the dice together for 7 or activate the red bits on 2 or 5. Exactly. And if you only have 1, say I only had 2, I can do number 2. Obviously, I can't do anything on 5 because there's nothing there. That's really cool. Yeah. Because, again, it keeps that downtime to a minimum, but it also helps you build like a lot of the ones I had in yesterday's game, for example, were money-based. Yes. So I was gaining money on other people's turns, and then I was able to buy even more powerful cards on my turn. That is a feature you nicely segued into that I'm not sure that I like. Okay, go on. And that is, your money track is technically infinite, because it goes up to 40, but it can keep going. You just put a cube, you put a cube at the end and you start again to denote it going up. There aren't really any cards that are worth more than 42. 42. Yeah, but that's one card, which we will get to. The actual main section of the buying thing, I think the most expensive card I saw was about 18.
Something along those lines, yeah. I can't remember the exact one, but yeah, if you're, it goes up that high because of the basically one-hit wonder victory point cards that you can buy.
Yeah.
Which is the most expensive is 42.
Which I got.
But I think I know where you're going with this, James, because when you buy a card, no matter the cost of that card, you spend all of your gold.
All your gold up to where your green cube is, basically, because that's how you stop it. You've got you got yellow, gold for gold.
Yep.
Green, I think, is income, which is slightly different, which we'll get to in a minute. And then blue is victory points, which ultimately is what you want.
Yes, exactly.
As you said at the beginning, it's 40 victory points to win the game.
Yeah.
Straight up.
But for what I'm assuming you were leading on to, James, and I've got to admit, it's actually something I kind of like, but can also be very frustrated with, because there could be I could have an amazing turn where everyone's rolling dice on the numbers that I've got.
Yeah.
That I can do on other people's turns. And I've gained, say, 30 gold in this turn. Yet I look at the purchasing board and go, do you know what? The main card that I really want is going to cost me 3 gold.
Yeah.
But I'm going to end up spending all of my gold on that because I haven't managed to bring my green dead stop cube up.
With the fact that there are 3 tiers of ships and a lot of them,
yeah,
I would argue for a system of being able to buy multiple ships rather than, like you said, it's like, oh, I really only want that one. I've got 18 gold and it costs 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't. It costs 18 because my gold track goes, because I haven't moved my green cube yet all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So it didn't cost 4, it cost 18 because I have to apparently spend all my money on it.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you in principle that maybe you should be able to buy multiple. However, I think maybe, I don't know this for certain, I reckon maybe that was installed as a mechanism to stop someone running away with the game. Because in its defense, this game is tight pretty much all the way up to the end. And it's only when everyone starts sort of getting past that halfway point on the points track, because everyone will get there, 100%. Everyone will get over half the way. It's only then that the game starts to speed up, because you'll then find people buying those one-hit wonder points, which will be 10 points, 13 points, 14 points. And that's huge, because, you've only got to get to 40 points in total. If you've already got 25...
Yeah.
If you go ahead and buy that 14-point costed one, you're only a few points away. I think I'm wondering if maybe that's a reason.
It's possible. Yeah, but you could limit to only being able to buy one space station, but the actual ships on the ship track, I think you should be able to, or you should be able to buy more than one. You can still set a hard limit, but more than one, so that it doesn't feel like
I would say maybe 2.
Yeah,
I would agree that you should be able to buy more, but I think if you were able to buy more than 2, because, like, for example, if on my turn I've managed to procure 20 points, right? If happens to be a massive run of cards that only cost 2, I could buy 10 cards, which is basically replacing my entire board. And then anytime anyone rolls anything, I'm going to gain something, which means I'm going to start gaining stuff a lot quicker.
The flip side of that, though, is, like you said, like, an example would be me. I went for that 42 gold card. But if I can buy more than one ship, and 2 very nice ships suddenly come out when I'm at about the 30 gold.
Well, I mean, arguably, you've just summed it up there. Maybe that is why. Because there are some really good ships in there. And if 2 of them happen to come out at the same time, is it really fair to not give anyone else a chance and go, oh, well, they've come out on my turn, I'll have them?
Yeah, but it presents a tactical decision then. It's like, victory points are the name of the game, and I'm beelining for this, but that's a choice. I now have to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess...
You could
pros and cons within the pros and cons, Jack.
Yeah, pros and cons within the pros and cons. You could also find that if you did get a really, really tasty combo, they tend to be the tier 3 ships, let's be honest. So you could say you could buy one ship from each tier.
That, I think, would be far more fair, actually. I would go for that, personally. Up to 3 ships, but it's 1 per tier. Because that's going to stop you from buying all the cheap stuff. It's also going to stop you from buying too many of the really good expensive stuff.
And it doesn't feel like you're tipping your gold down the loo.
Yeah, exactly. So I would go for that. I'm all in for that, James. That sounds pretty good to me. I touched on it a little bit there. Another pro for me was the fact that the game is never over until someone gains that last victory point.
Yes.
And I know that sounds silly, but what I mean is it's tight all the way up to the last few turns.
Yeah.
Like last night's game, for example, I was in last place the majority of that game, yet right at the end,
Yeah.
I managed to blitz through my points.
Thing is, I find that with a lot of Tableau builders, because obviously the aim of the game is really actually to get your Tableau up and running. It is the start of the game is quite slow, and then once people have got their Tableau working, and then it suddenly goes what.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've actually played a Tableau game where someone's got left behind.
Yeah.
It might seem that way, but like I said, once that board comes alive, they start shooting up tracks, and the end of the game is always close.
Yeah, yeah. I like that, to be honest. That sort of slowly accelerating up a hill game.
Yeah.
I enjoy that quite a lot, to be honest. That's one of my favourite parts.
Well, that's what I said. It's like, I would actually argue that I suppose you could class Tableau builders and engine builders. Now, I suppose they all come under the same umbrella. They, I think, rival worker placement games for my favourite kind of game.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely. I do enjoy a good Tableau builder. Weirdly, it's not one that I've got that many of, if any, but I do enjoy them quite a bit, and I'm probably the same as you. They're quite high up there.
Yeah.
Not sure whether they're one of my favorite. I mean, they're in the top 5. They're definitely in the top 5 mechanisms that I like. So could be interesting to try and get even more of these to the table. But James, the combos that you can build in this game.
Oh, some of them are filthy.
Oh, absolutely disgusting. And this is another thing, I guess. It kind of comes in tandem with the combos thing that I like. You can win this game solely on other people's turns.
Yes.
You could buy cards specifically knowing that what it does on your turn when you initially buy it is rubbish. But you could buy it with the intention of next turn I'm going to replace it because what it does on other people's turns is filthy.
Yep. I also like the fact, like you said, the stuff that is on the blue section for what you do on your turn. Obviously, as soon as you replace it, that goes away. I like the fact that all the red sections stack.
Yes. Yeah, because that's the thing. Is that we were talking earlier, is like law of averages, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
They're your big ones. So if you can stack those,
yeah,
you're going to be gaining a lot during those turns. However, like what I did yesterday, I was building 10, 11, and 12. For the majority of the game, I did nothing.
Yeah,
but then towards the end,
11. I don't know what it was about the number 11, but right at the end, we all rolled 5s and 6s.
Yeah, you did. Well, that was genuinely it. In that last 2 rounds, there was 4 rolls of number 11.
Yeah,
and my number 11 slot had gain 5 money, and it had a card which allowed me to activate either the left or the right.
Yes,
and my number 12 had gain. I think it was gain 5 money, gain 4 money, and gain 4 victory points.
Yeah.
So what I was getting was near on 20 points, or 20 gold, sorry. Gold.
Yeah, well, 16 victory.
And then 4 victory points.
We rolled, like you said, 4 11s in the last round. That's 16 victory points right there.
Yeah, without me spending any gold. And that was the thing, because as I said, we all got to about halfway. You guys started pulling ahead of me, but because of those rolls, I started catching up on the victory points, and then I just literally went, oh, I'm 13 points from victory. There's a card there that costs, let's say, 20 gold. That gives me 13 victory points. How much gold have I got? Oh, excellent. I'll buy that. Game over. Thank you very much. I win. You know, and I went from dead last to winning the game.
Yeah.
All because of luck. And that ultimately is another thing I like about the game is, yes, you can build the world's best Tableau engine, but if the dice don't roll the way you want them to roll,
it won't do.
It ain't gonna do jack.
Yeah.
How do you find that? Is that something you like?
I like the randomness of the dice because, games like, if we talk about typical engine builders and things like that, would be Wingspan, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's once you got your engine going on Wingspan, that's it. It just churns out.
You just chug. You just, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that again. And it becomes kind of repetitive and a bit boring.
Yeah. I like the random dice roll. It's like, I've got really good cards here, and no one's rolling that number.
And then you roll it on your turn where you can't activate
the red
bits that you want to activate. It's so infuriating yet amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love adding in that luck element introduced by the die.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, what I'm loving about the gameplay is building that sort of nice little engine that's going to make it work. I think, if I'm honest, I prefer building stuff to do on other people's turns.
Yes.
I'm not bothered about the tableau, what I've got in front of me. I want to win by having other people win for me.
Yes.
Because that just gives me a whole extra level of satisfaction. Maybe I'm just a horrible, maniacal person for wanting to do that, but...
Yeah, well, it's a sensible strategy because the law of averages says that, especially if you can get, like you said, in those 5, 6, and 7, it's like, well, there's 3 opportunities for someone to roll that. There's only 1 opportunity for me to roll it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, if we've already talked about one con I had with the game, and that is obviously with regards to the charging of cards, and that's a personal thing. I'm not a huge fan of that. However, what I have found in a couple of games I've played recently is my one and only other con, and that is the card purchasing area, James.
Mm-hmm.
It can, if you get a game full of people that don't want to buy those cards to charge, it very quickly becomes clogged.
Yes.
And there's no way of rotating.
Yeah, there's no refresh.
You're waiting for someone to get fed up and go, oh, fine, I'll buy one just to get it off the board. And yeah, I'd like maybe a way of refreshing some cards in that shop area. So that's it for me. Have you got anything else that you want to talk about with regards to gameplay?
No, I think I've covered all my bases on gameplay.
Okay. So would you like to give me your final thoughts and your recommendations for Space Base?
My final thoughts on Space Base is it is a fun game. Yep. Absolutely recommend you sit down and play it if someone's got it.
Mm-hmm.
As for purchasing it, not if it's in that £40-45 bracket.
Now, as I said, this is a tough one because there's loads of expansions for this. I believe what I was looking at was the base game.
Yep.
However, I know there's a big box game. There's a load that include the expansions. There's all sorts of stuff. I believe it was the base game, so I'm going to say that it was, and that I think that's too expensive.
Yeah.
Get it at a reasonable price, 100%. I would definitely recommend you buy it. Up to about £35 is as much as I would go. Do I recommend you play it? 100%. If someone has got it, play it. Am I going to buy it? No. Mainly because I don't feel the need to. Paul has a copy of this, and I feel that this is a game that I would happily play anytime he said, oh, do you fancy playing this? Yeah, put me down for it. Do I feel like it's a game that I need to own so that I can then recommend to play with other people when Paul isn't here? Not so much. Would it be a game that you would put, if you owned the game, James, would it be one you'd actually go out of your way to suggest to play?
I think I would.
Okay.
It is that good if you're going to overlook its flaws. It is a genuinely fun game.
Yeah.
So yes, if I owned it, I just don't know if I'd be willing to part with that amount of money for it.
No. It is a bit of a shame. Like, if you could get it for that price with expansions,
yep,
then I think it's worth it. But yeah, I don't know what the expansions bring to the game. We've never played with the expansions. I'm interested to try it.
Yeah, I would like to. I'm kind of curious as to what they've done to expand that.
Yeah, I think some of them come with just cards that increase the variety in ships that you get, which is pretty good because there's already a pretty good variety. Some of them, I believe the newer version or a command module or whatever they call it, comes with an updated rulebook, which apparently deals with some issues that the original rulebook had, but I've not personally seen that. But yeah, I'm interested to try it. I'm also interested to hear anyone's thoughts that has tried it and whether it is worth it. So yeah, there you go. I recommend playing it. Don't recommend buying it at that cost. Another one done, James.
Indeed.
Another hour down the hatch. The juice is gone. I'm falling asleep.
Yes.
I think it's time to call it a night.
So do I.
Till next week, guys. I have been Jason.
And I've been James.
And you have been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.